Joe, I think, is one of the tremendous examples of the patriotism of our city and the service that so many others dedicated themselves to, not just in the Second World War, but since then and before. We are a deeply patriotic place. We've been proud to say that New Bedford has the highest per capita number of veterans of any city in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. The sons of New Bedford and the daughters of New Bedford have served in wars running from the U.S., from the King Philip's War, even through the American Revolution, through the Civil War, of course, all up until today, to the wars of the last decade. And there are New Bedford residents who are out now in deployments all throughout Afghanistan as we speak. It is Joe Theodore, as many of you know, left his mark by, among other things, by promoting the flying of the flag, the proper flying of the flag here, but also in convincing Congress ultimately that the flag should be illuminated wherever it flies at any U.S. installation worldwide, which is a remarkable story. And it really is, again, a tribute to not only his patriotism, but also in his ability to get things done. And he's a great example, and this is something that every kid who's listening to this on the radio or watching on TV, this is a tremendous example of what one person can do. One person with the right dedication and the right credibility, like as Joe had, can do big things. And when you do big things for big purposes, like advancing the reverence for the flag and patriotism generally in the country, that is something that we all must honor. So, today I would. We have a few speakers. I wanted to. Joe, of course, was a veteran of the Battle of the Bulge, which started 69 years ago this week with a surprise German attack into the advancing American line. It was a battle that caused great suffering, but also was an occasion of great heroism on the part of American forces up and down the line that was advancing into the western end of Germany. Today we have with us, we asked my friend Cal Siegel, who is a New Bedford native, to offer us a few words about the battle. Cal got here on short notice, and as soon as we started to do the planning for this event in earnest, my thoughts turned to Cal as someone who, again, a son of New Bedford who did great things. Cal graduated, if I remember correctly, Cal, second in your class at New Bedford High. I've read that. It should have been first. It was that B in chemistry that really set you back, back then. But Cal enlisted in the U.S. Army and served in 75th Infantry Division, if I remember correctly, and was injured at the Battle of the Bulge, returned home, and is very much like Joe Theodore, was a card-carrying member of the greatest generation, went on to Yale University. After that, on the GI Bill, came back here and was tremendously successful in a number of businesses. One of my favorite plaques in the city is one of the most telling plaques in the city is the plaque that is in the lobby of the YMCA, the new YMCA, as many folks of a certain age would call it. And there were, back in the early 70s when that was built, there were a number of corporate benefactors and organizations, banks and mills that were contributed to the construction of that site. And the funny thing is, you look at it these days and you say, well, just about all of them are gone, but there's one name that still stands out, and that's this man, Cal Siegel, who literally for decades has been contributing to this community and remains on the board and and is a leader on the board at the New Bedford Whaling Museum. You will see Cal every Veterans Day marching smartly down Union Street, still in his uniform, still fits even to this day. So Cal, we really appreciate your being here today, and we just ask you to offer a few words about the historical context and about Joe Theodore himself.
Thank you.
Lower
Better
this.
lower it down there.
No.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I hardly recognized whom he was talking about. But let me tell you, there's no place like New Bedford. I was 5 years old when my folks brought me here, and I have loved every moment living in this neighborhood. I'm rather pleased actually that it's cold and inclement, because this is what it was like on December 15 when I was on a freight car, a 40 and 8. I don't know how many of you know what 48s are, but in World War I, the French Army had little freight cars, and they would put 40 men or 8 horses in one. And believe it or not, the United States Army was using those in 1944. On December 16, when the Germans broke through, they literally turned our freight cars around, and very shortly thereafter, we were in the melee, which is now known as the Battle of the Bulge. The Germans really attempted to get to Antwerp. That's what they really wanted to do, get to Antwerp, and then they would have split the American forces and really gotten not only our port, but also a tremendous amount of supplies. Probably the Supreme Headquarters people didn't pay enough attention to their preparations, and so the Germans were able to strike through a very weak part of the perimeter of the Allied defense line, and made at first a very rapid and fearsome approach to what they wanted to do. I must say that I've read an awful lot and studied a lot about the Bulge, and it was virtually a defensive action taken by a bunch of guys and some gals they did it themselves. For the first 3 or 4 days of the breakthrough, it was almost a disaster, but the untold amount of heroics from the fellows who were there was just terrific. And by Christmas Day, we were able to start to take some land back, and a month later, there was no longer any Bulge. It was in that atmosphere that Joe Theodore really earned his stripes, 2 of them. He outranked me. I was a PFC, and he was a corporal. And I think anyone who had gone through that period of time had a tremendous regard for the guys and the girls who were fighting for our great country. And so I understand how he really had the desire to honor the flag the way he did. And so I think today, with the flag going up in Joe's name, it's really recognizing all of the people and the folks who were involved in that horrible battle. Just to give you some idea before I close, there were 600,000 American troops in the Battle of the Bulge. 100,000 of them were brought up afterwards. There were 90,000 casualties, 49,500 were wounded, and 18,000 were deceased. And a terrible number to also tell you was that there were about 23,000 who literally were missing in action or never were accounted for. And so what Joe did was really honor all of those people. And I think we also should remember that we just had a young lad from Fairhaven departed, and we should have a special memory for him as the flag goes up. So I'm honored, really honored and thrilled to be here with you, and want to congratulate Joe's family and the mayor and all of the politicians who did this for honoring Joe, and it will be a plaque that we will all be very proud of. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Cal. Thank you very much, Cal. Before I introduce the next speaker, I just wanted to acknowledge the public officials who've shown up in support of today's event, beginning with State Representative Paul Schmid, City Councilor Jim Oliveira, City Councilor Joe Lopes, and our next speaker, Brian Gomes. This is this was a terrific idea to do this in a very prominent place in the city, and I want to thank you, Brian, for both for your friendship of Joe and his family, but really for keeping the flame. Joe had a huge impact here, and he should be honored, in my view, as I know it's yours, in a no less of a prominent place right here in City Hall Square. So, you know, this is, you know, when you hear Brian speak about the idea that he had, that he ran with, and this is the way government should work. I mean, come up with a good idea, vet it, run with it, this is a wonderful occasion to commemorate the service of a terrific guy, and someone of whom we are all proud. Brian, great job on this.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone, and it's a distinct honor and a privilege to be here this evening on this cold night, but all of a sudden it's feeling warm the more you hear about a man who had an impact in this councilor's life, who I met after being elected, only knowing some of the family, but we won't get into that because it's a long story. But I worked over at the North Dartmouth Mall as a store detective, and all this time knowing this manager from JCPenney, not knowing the connection to he was the son of the famous Joe Theodore. With that said, we became very close friends. But this idea came to light in honor of Joe. The symbol, the seal that you see right there, the New Bedford seal, that seal and this sidewalk that you see was a mutual agreement between three parties. At that time, Mayor Kalis, myself, and Joe Theodore, they felt that that seal should be on the sidewalk of City Hall, only to be taken and done by the former administration, Mayor Kalis, as a dream that Joe wanted to see. But more importantly, when I met Joe Theodore, I met a man of love, compassion, and a great patriot. When I say that, he always had a smile, he always had a handshake, he always had a hug. And he expressed how we should love each other. I know he loved the children. He loved going to the schools and participating in the schools, giving them a little bit of the history of wartime, but more importantly, about what that flag that flies over us right now meant and what it means to this country. And what it meant to Joe was all of us. It was an umbrella somewhat of what this country is all about. Joe was a man, as I say, of love. He always had something good to say, always had a smile on his face, and as he said to many of us that stand here, and I'm here with a few of my colleagues, and I know the mayor could share the same sentiments, that love each other, care about each other, care about our city, care about our Commonwealth, care about our country. More importantly, care about that flag that has flown in so many battles, in so many ways in this country, representing what we are all about. Joe, as I said, was a real, true patriot. This is an honor and a privilege this evening to do this. I could go on and tell you many, many stories, funny stories, my colleagues could share also with us upstairs with Joe, because you know, when you gave Joe the mic, it was over, okay? And we used to be up in City Council, and he would start talking, and it would go on 15 minutes, and he'd look up at me, Brian, he goes, "You want me to quit, right?" "I'm not." And then he would go right back, and he would continue doing. But that was Joe Theodore, and whatever Joe had to say, as I said, was with commitment, it was dedication, it was love, it was powerful. And he is deeply missed by many in the city. This councilor misses him very deeply because it missed many of the veterans services and things that we had across the city. We always look forward to seeing Joe, and you always look forward to hearing from Joe about what he was doing to continue his fight to make sure that that flag is recognized as one of the most powerful symbols that this country has ever seen. And with that said, God bless you all, and I think he's looking down on all of us. And I just would like to say one more thing. If I would be remiss if I didn't. This was in the Committee on Memorials and Dedications, and I want to thank my colleagues who sat on that committee who've seen this through. But more importantly, we had a young lady from the Mayor's office, Mayor Mitchell's office, Christine Conley, who attended the meetings on behalf of the Mayor's office, who immediately seen the light of this whole project and took this back to the Mayor's office, returning to our committee meeting not only with a yes that we were going to do this, but a rendering and a real idea of real salute to a man that loved all of us, meant so much to this city, and that flag, I'll keep talking about that flag, but Christine ran with it, and I want to personally say thank you very much from me to you and the Committee on Memorials and Dedications, and thank you, Mayor Mitchell, from your administration for not hesitating one moment to see this through. Thank you very much, and have a great evening, everyone.
All right, now I would ask the Theodore family to come on up, and let's do the unveiling. Yeah, why don't you go on that side? Just watch out for the camera, Brian. There it is. Yeah, I'll. You, Brian, you want to read it? Yeah. All right. So it says here. I know we're in the dark, but let me go ahead and read it. This is New Bedford City Hall Flag Plaza, and I even have to squint here. Is dedicated to the memory of New Bedford native Joseph Theodore, 1917 to 2009. Quote, the Flag Man, a twice wounded World War II veteran who tirelessly promoted peace and respect from the Stars and Stripes, for the Stars and Stripes. Let me just get a little bit closer here. Including successfully petitioning the United States Congress to require the American flag be lit at all times. His countless efforts to recognize the sacrifices of veterans in meaningful ways resulted in many patriotic events celebrated throughout the city. Above all, Mr. Theodore loved New Bedford and the city's long history of embracing people of all nationalities and races. His work will forever stand as a model for all citizens of New Bedford. Well done. And I think there's no more appropriate way to end this ceremony by honoring that which Joe Theodore had dedicated his life, and that is for us to recite the Pledge of Allegiance. And I will ask Joe's family to come on up and lead us in the pledge.
Remember this from school. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well done. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.